The September stock-up sale is on now at Whole Foods Market. With kids back to school and busy workdays, you can save big on all you need to streamline your home and routine. Get huge deals on supplements and packaged coffee to energize and power through pickups and drop-offs. Next, save on organic chicken breast and Honeycrisp apples to master your meal plan. Then scoop up ready-to-heat and eat meals for when you just can't. So stock up and save at your local Whole Foods Market through September 17th.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
1-800-Flowers.com is more than your birthday, anniversary, or just because gift-giving destination. We put our hearts into everything we do to help you celebrate all life's special occasions with friends and family. From our farmers and bakers, florists and makers, everything from 1-800-Flowers is made with love every step of the way, because we know that nothing is more important than delivering a smile. To learn more, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
Hello, ladies.
Hey, girls. Hey, ladies.
Hey. So everyone out there, sorry that we skipped a week. I know you must have been so sad without hearing our voices on a beautiful Wednesday, but life gets in the way and we just couldn't get it together. But here we are.
In our defense, we did attempt a podcast last week.
We actually attempted to record video again, which should not be as difficult as I think we're making it to be, but we tried, we failed, but we learned a lot of really good lessons.
I feel like we always try and, we'll figure it out one day, just not that day. It's like when people do their own hair at home. I'm like, this is why people have these jobs for recording and video and audio and all the things that we'll get there. It's taking us a little longer,
Yeah. I think most podcasts are set up for two people. So because we're a trio, we have a little extra spice, which is great. But we have to just go outside the standard. And we're going to do that because the people need to see our faces. But speaking of life getting in the way, so as we all are well aware, I have horrible ADHD. Gina, you are also in my tribe.
So like looking around, like already zoning out.
Well, I did read, I think I sent it to you on Instagram, that when people with ADHD are listening, it's actually better for them to be like multitasking because they listen better. And I've never felt more understood because now when I'm listening to something, like even on a work call, I'll be looking at my computer or writing something, but I'm fully listening. But if I just straight up listen, I'm zoning out. So
it's why hair is such a perfect job for ADHD individuals, because we have to be mid-conversation while we're like foiling or applying color and stuff. So I remember all my conversations when I'm doing hair, but if I'm just like sitting there with someone, I'm like, I can't, like, I'm so zoned out, I don't even know where to look.
I never thought about that. Kirsten, do you, as a neurotypical person, as they call you, do you ever feel like you need to be multitasking in order to really pay attention? Or are you like, I'm going to look you straight on and listen to everything you're saying?
I like to listen to people straight on to everything they're saying, but I feel like what I struggle with the most is not, I don't have ADHD, of course, but I struggle with like recall memory or remembering things sometimes. Like if it's not significant or if it's not something like special going on in the moment, I'm like, oh, you did tell me that. Like I forgot. Like it has to be something to make me remember.
Oh, I get that. I wish we could switch brains for a day just to know what it feels like to just not have all these random thoughts in our heads or need to do all these like strange things in order to pay attention.
Yeah, let's do a brain swap. I feel like a video or a vlog could help that, like just a day in the life of someone with ADHD.
You guys have heard my struggle with the particular ADHD medication I'm on, because I'm so high up there, it's harder to find because it's a higher milligram. And they recently came out with a generic version for it, which you'd think, yay, great, because that lowers the price. But my insurance, because I have a high deductible, they cover only the brand and not the generic, but they won't cover it until I hit my deductible. So every single month, I've had to pay $400 for this medication because I haven't hit my deductible yet, which sucks. And it's impossible to find because now that they have the generic, no one wants to keep the higher dosage of the brand name in stock. So every single month, I have to call my pharmacy, see if they have it. If they have it, great. If not, I have to call pharmacies until I find it. And then I have to have the doctor write a prescription for that pharmacy because you can't transfer a prescription for a controlled substance. So every single month I play this game. And this past week, it just didn't work out with me calling pharmacies and the doctor and this and that. So I was without it for 4 days, which does not really sound like a big deal, but I had to go to the doctor to get a new prescription. And she basically told me I was going through drug withdrawal, like not, crackheads, like vomiting and going nuts and dying. But she was listening to me describe all my symptoms. And she's like, yeah, that's very normal. When you're on a medication, your body becomes dependent on it. So I went on this whole thing like, maybe I'll just go off of it because I don't want to be dependent on anything. But I was like, I cannot even believe I functioned. I went to a museum while I was going through all this. So I should get a special award for that.
I'm going to give you some gummies for it to be your special awards because I know you like gummy bears. But I just can't believe that you had to call around to so many pharmacies. Like, that makes me sad to hear. I didn't know people had to do that. I feel like that should be like a pharmacist's job, like to find and fill your prescriptions. And then $400, that is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you cope with that without having your medicine? Like,
I really didn't. I felt terrible because my mom and stepdad were visiting and I was so cranky. I was irritable. I was depressed. Like, I couldn't stay awake. Everything had me on edge. I was trying to have a conversation and I would just like Tweety birds all around me. And I don't know if that's how I would be if I went off the medication permanently, like if that's just me off meds or if that was an extreme version because my body was just going cold turkey off of it. But I was a mess.
It probably was just the cold turkey. I mean, I don't know. There's so many different like levels of ADHD. So I've been on like a super low dosage and I don't take it full time. Like I don't take it. When I met with my psychiatrist, he was like, I wouldn't recommend taking it for me. He was like full time because you don't want to develop a dependence on it. So I wouldn't take it. I remember I like wouldn't take it on the weekends. And now I don't know if I'm just so ADHD that I forget to take my meds, but half the time I will have one prescription and I won't refill it for like 3 months a lot of the time. And I can tell sometimes, like, I'll have days where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I should be taking this every day because I'm, like, so overwhelmed and my brain just can't function properly because it's, like, bing, 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 like, all over the place.
How long have you been prescribed this medication? Not this specific brand, but, like, overall, like, the length of time you were diagnosed?
I think I got my official diagnosis my senior year of college because I started taking Adderall as a lot of college kids do.
And you're like, oh my God, I can take a nap now.
Yeah. It's like, I want to study. I want to be up all night. And I took it. I was like, whoa, I can actually pay attention in class and I feel relaxed and I'm not stressed about all of my homework.
It really is the funniest thing when people, because yeah, I went to like an SEC university, bartended for even bartending downtown, everyone like takes Adderall because they're like, yeah, I'm going to stay up all night, like and bartend and I'm not going to get tired. And it's like crack for them. And it can absolutely be that. Like, I'm pretty sure if I took 60 milligrams, I'd probably be acting crazy. But if you actually are ADHD, it's like such a complete opposite. Like, it's so relaxing that you're like, oh my God, I could go sit in a spa. Like, it's just everything around you without it is like panic mode, overwhelm, crazy. And then the minute you take it, it's like everything settles.
Yeah, like strips away the white noise almost. But that's when I realized I should go see a doctor because I was feeling way differently than everyone else taking it. And then I've been on the same med for a few years now.
I never thought I had it because everyone took it around me. Like it was considered this like almost party drug that everyone was taking through college and bartending. And so I just viewed it as like smoking weed, like the same kind of thing. I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like I don't want to take that drug, you know? And then once I like saw a psychiatrist, it was like totally, it's crazy when you are diagnosed with something because you're like, wait, everyone doesn't think like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is weird. It's like, it's very much, it's a form of anxiety, or it can be a form of anxiety truly, because your brain is trying to process like so much information. Like say you were, I don't know how to describe it. Like say you're like reading a newspaper. It would be like your brain trying to read every single article at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I don't know where to start. Like everything's just so overwhelming that you can't focus on one thing because it's like your brain's constantly getting flushed information and you can't like shut it down. So it's like when you do take medicine, it's like, oh, I can just read this one article and feel fine. Like I don't think about anything else.
I once heard someone describe it as now and not now. So if you have 20 things on your list, your ADHD brain is like, okay, I have to do 20 things now or I don't do them at all. Versus Kirsten, your brain is probably like, all right, I'll do number 1 and then I'll do number 2. And then after that, let's do number 3. But it's with us, it's like 20 things have to happen immediately, urgently, or the world's going to end. But that's not really the case.
And I feel like maybe if you're like having like ADHD meltdowns or something, is there like some code words or something you can tell yourself, like calm down or take a moment or breathe, you know, in and out for 5 to 7 times, count to 10? Like, will any of that help?
Breathing helps. I would say like having the wherewithal to tell myself I need to step out of it, breathe, reevaluate, because you know when something doesn't feel right, but it's almost like you don't know what about it doesn't feel right and how to make it feel right. So all these thoughts go swirling in your head. But then when I'm on the medicine, I'm like, this is great. I can get 20 things done at one time. They can all happen now.
Yeah, you have a little bit more structure in your head.
Yeah, it's weird because it's definitely just overwhelm. It's not like an anxiety like, oh, I'm sad or upset or like anything like that. It's just overwhelming. Like, oh my God, I have to do this right now or it's not going to get done. Like, it's just everything like you're saying is like now or never. So then you have like, what is it? ADHD paralysis where you're like, well, I'm just not even going to start that because it just seems like there's too many steps. In reality, it's like, no, it's just carrying groceries out of the car. Like, it's fine.
That's what I had to tell myself sometimes too. I'll do that. I'm like, Kirsten, you have 10 things you need to do today. Which ones are you going to check off your to-do list?
I think everyone has a little bit of that.
And I'm like, I need to be productive. That's what I'll tell myself. I'm like, you need to be productive today. Get things done.
I think generally we're all ADHD or not, just overwhelmed. So it is hard for all of us to keep track of what's going on. I saw Eris a week or 2 ago. We went to brunch and we were just talking, like catching up, talking about everyone. And he was like, you know, every single person I know is busy and tired. Every person I talk to is like, yeah, I'm good. I'm busy. I'm tired. And I felt that in my soul. I'm like, yeah, everything's good. But I feel like we're all always just so busy and just tired. Does anyone feel like cool, calm, collected, relaxed, not a million things going on? I don't think so.
No, I don't know. I mean, I have my days where I am very cool, calm, and relaxed. I feel like you have to make for sure that you're taking good care of yourself so that you don't have like burnout or so that you don't have like low energy. So I always try to recharge myself.
You're very good at that. I will say I envy your ability. Like you take care of yourself more than probably anyone I know in the best way possible. Like I'm like, okay, just be like Kirsten. Just take a day, do your own thing, and then the next day you'll do double things. But, you know, my brain wants to be you, but it's always me up in there.
Channel your inner Kirsten.
So Pastor Cal, who we know and love, he actually launched an app, and apparently Chris and I were invited, very afterthought-ish.
How dare them think of y'all as an afterthought? Y'all should have been the first people they contacted.
Yeah. Well, it was during my drug detox anyway, so I do not imagine that would have been a good
drug detox. We need to think of a different word. That sounds so terrible. It's your break.
No, we didn't want people to think you're like on hard drugs.
Your quick break.
My toxin-free weekend, where I was extra irritable, probably would not have been a safe space for me to be in this environment. But he started an app, I guess, based on his book that he has with his wife. It's called Marriage Ain't for Punks. And it is for married people, pre-married people, and marriage-minded people to, I'm reading this from the website, get matched and meet your future spouse.
It's an app to get you married?
It's an app. I guess it gives you marriage advice. So Pastor Cal came out with this app, and it somehow led me down a Married at First Sight rabbit hole because, we're trying to figure out when this new season is coming out. And I saw a spoiler for Married at First Sight Australia, which I don't watch, but I guess they come out with a new season every year. And the spoiler for their 2025 season was that, I have the headline here because I thought it was insane. It was MAFS 2025 in chaos as 6 cast members quit and brides rebel. Next year's Married at First Sight has already hit peak levels of drama. So it appears that half of the couples quit. I guess they don't get fully married. They just have like a commitment ceremony. But I was thinking, like, Denver was obviously such a disaster. Our season wasn't great statistically. And the seasons prior to ours, I think Chris and I are the last couple to stay together since like season 12. So it really got me thinking, like, where the show was, where it's going, and how it got here. Like, what would we do differently? I thought that would be something really cool to talk about because we lived it and we saw what was successful and what wasn't. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
I just honestly feel like we did what we needed to do. And sometimes, like, things are in other people's hands. So they picked us. They picked their production crew to produce us. So a lot of that weighed in on their skills or lack of skills, within the industry. So I feel like we were all great and genuine people, and we made our decision based on the people that we were partnered with. And we held ourselves very well. I feel like we were one of the last of the greatest seasons that has recently aired at Married at First Sight, unlike the other seasons. And I can probably understand why the Married at First Sight UK, a lot of them have dropped out, because you never know. Like, if they have those younger producers who are not married, who want drama, and people aren't interested in doing that, because you sign up to be married on the show, to get to know someone, to see if this can be something outside of the show and can be a lifetime partnership in marriage. But I don't know. I think it's insane. And I think that since they are producing the other dating shows, and if they want drama, that's something that they can focus on those dating shows, because that's not like people are getting married. Marriage is serious. And I don't feel like people should be manipulated. I don't feel like people should, be recorded when they're having really hard times and trying to figure things out. I mean, I know it's good for TV and people like to see that, but it's still people's real emotions in their lives, and they have to live life after that. But I don't feel like it's anything we could have done differently. I feel like we held ourselves very well.
No, not us. I agree with everything you're saying, but not us differently, like what the show could have done. Because I feel like in the beginning seasons, even if the marriages didn't stay or didn't continue like well after decision day, I feel like there were at least more couples that had a better shot. And I don't necessarily think that's because the matches were better, because I think the past few seasons there have been some great matches, but I think a lot of, like, for example, me personally, granted I'm still married, but I think the process would have been a lot easier for me and more beneficial had they had more meetings with the experts in general, but also regular access to them off camera, because I felt like on camera I had to play a part. I had to give the most vulnerable version of myself, or I had to clam up because I wasn't ready to have certain conversations on national television. But if I had access to them, or just other therapists that were sanctioned by the show, so this way they had a background of what was going on. If we had regular access to them, that I could have these conversations or talk these feelings through, I feel like my mental health wouldn't have been so negatively affected. So even though, yes, my marriage worked, me as a person was kind of a disaster after filming. And I think that would have been something that would have made my life a lot better and the experience more enjoyable. So I'm just wondering if there are things either of you think could have, whether it's like not having group outings.
I was just about to say that the group meetings, I could have done less of those. I would have rather, went on more one-on-one dates with Shaquille on and off camera. I would have liked for us to get to know each other a bit better. I feel like that would have definitely improved our experience throughout the journey of the marriage. And like you said, I do feel like having that one-on-one time with Pastor Cal or Dr. Pepper, that definitely would have helped, because you do need therapy and guidance in a new situation like that. Like, you're on TV, you're married a stranger, you're trying to figure each other out, you're trying to figure out yourself as you're going through this experiment. So I definitely feel like the group meetings, you guys always know I'm like, I could not handle those at all. I used to dread coming to those group meetings. But once I got more comfortable with y'all, like, it was easier. But just starting a process like that and being thrown into the groups all the time, that was not helpful for me.
I truly got to know Clint more during after parties when we were like traveling and hanging out outside of it. I don't know. I think we could have done less filming, truly, because if you think back on all of the stuff that hasn't, like, was never shown, it was just like filler stuff. And half the time I think they also knew it was filler stuff. And it's like, we're all adults. We had jobs. Like, we had pretty much, I mean, I know for me, I would go to the salon all day or had like other things I had to do for my business. And then it was like, okay, we're going to film from 4 to 9 every single day. And you're going to get one day off, but that day off, you're actually going to film for 3 hours for your like interview. And so there wasn't ever time to like really hang out off camera, in my opinion, to really get to know each other. And as far as the experts, like, they were in contract, they are TV personalities. So I know that they have background to try to help us with things, but that's not their job. Like, they're not in the day-to-day therapy scene. And so if you think about it, we were with producers that are like 24, that are not in therapy. They're in television jobs. And by the time the experts would come, out of the 4 times that we saw them during filming, they didn't really even know what was going on in our marriage. So I feel like it would bring back all the things that like we kind of worked through, and all of a sudden they need it on camera, so we need to talk about it, and it's making it uncomfortable, and we've already like been past that. And they're like, well, let's talk about what's going on. And what's quote unquote going on was actually what had happened like 2 or 3 weeks prior. They just needed to get it on camera. So I feel like it definitely would have been nice to have a little bit more time to spend off camera to like really, like you said, like, Nicole, like, be yourself and not be like either uncomfortable or feeling like you're in a pressure cooker. And then having access to actual like couples therapy, like, even if they weren't going, it wasn't going to be through the experts. Like, it clearly can't be through the producers. So they should have given us, instead of 6 days of filming, 1 day with an actual therapist to like try to communicate and get to know each other better.
Yeah. And I also feel like it's understandable that reality TV has a format. It has, a rinse and repeat type thing. That's why so many of these shows are in however many seasons. That's how it's gotten to 19 plus seasons. So I do understand that for the sake of it being quote unquote easy to make TV, they have to have some sort of format. But it feels like every season they just do the same thing without taking a step back to see what's working and what isn't. Like, another thing I spend way too long thinking about is those fishbowl questions, which I actually think some of the questions were really informative, but the format of it, where you had a rapid fire answer questions, felt more like we were playing a not fun game versus trying to get to know each other. And because they wanted everyone to do theirs a little differently, Chris and I had to answer our fishbowl questions on spin bikes while we were actively exercising. So it really felt like we were more like monkeys spinning on a wheel trying to be entertaining versus trying to get to know each other when those questions were actually pretty useful. Had we been able to sit there and have a conversation using them at a steadier pace, which again, I understand not as entertaining, but if people are watching the show to see our compatibility and if we're in love, isn't that much more exciting than watching us out of breath on spin bikes?
That's all so calculated. Like, it's literally, that kind of stuff gets me so fired up because we sat in that meeting with Dr. Pepper and the way that she sold what we're like, she was like, this is going to be such a beautiful exercise for you guys to do. And like, you know, maybe when you're having a cup of coffee, you grab one. And then a few days later, when you're having dinner, you grab another one. And we're just going to let you guys go through it. And then within like literally 24 hours, we're sitting there and they're like, oh, actually, we're going to go through every single question right now. We know that it's calculated. It's to create TV. It's to, I think by the end of us sitting and going through those questions, it's the same reason they make Clint or whoever stand at the end of the aisle for 2 hours. They do that because they want him to be like looking irritated. They want someone to look irritated. They want them to look like this sucks, like, or I'm nervous, or I'm sweating, or whatever it is. You're not going to get that when someone just like walks out for 5 minutes. So I think those types of exercises, like they weren't meant for us at all. They could give a shit less about us. Like it was totally meant for, it's a beautiful exercise. They're totally right.
Yeah.
But it was meant to get us to the 2 hour breaking point of being like, I don't want to answer another question because then we are so irritated or out of breath. And they wanted you to be annoyed is why they did that. Like they want you to be on a bike and you're like, this is so annoying. I'm trying to get to know my husband. So that way, by the time it's edited, it looks like Nicole's upset with Chris over this one question out of 400 that we've asked. When in reality, it's like, no, we're actually irritated that we're on question 400 and you're not letting us actually like get something out of this exercise. So it's all like, it's just calculated. Like every single move, if you look back at it, it is hard to be like, well, I understand why they did that. I know why they, like, you can tell why they did that kind of stuff. And it's because it's business, it's entertainment. And it kind of makes you feel like, oh, wow, like a gotcha, you know, like they definitely took advantage of us. And it's unfortunate, but I think that we 100% came out on top and made the most of it.
I really feel like we're such a great group of people and we all can be very entertaining. We all know how to have a good time. And I feel like if they would have allowed us to do that more like in an organic way, they would have had a really great show instead of trying to stick to that format or the layout that they have for the show. So maybe like going forward, they probably need to fill people out and then also ask the couples, what are you guys both interested in, or what are some of your hobbies? Like, and then they could actually plan their dates and, you know, be more adventurous together, and you'll have like great TV because then it'll be more authentic and they can still kind of produce it and edit it as they want, as they would like. But I also just feel like, you know, like you said, it's TV. It goes back to it being TV for sign up for a show. But I feel like they would also receive like better quality people, and people will also maybe stay married if they have the option to like really get to know each other on their own terms, or either like give and take. Okay, so this is what we're suggesting you guys do today. And then what would you guys like to do on the next time, you know, that we film?
Well, we did that. We chose the rodeo and I was like, they're never going to let us do this. And then they actually did. And we had such a good time, and it wasn't as
Forced,
directed and forced.
directed.
It wasn't like uncomfortable. It's like, okay, we're going to go to the rodeo and do this. It's those moments. And I think it's too like the moments of like with the fishbowl exercise, it like sucked. It was so terrible because I know Clint and I were like actually very much excited for that. We were like, okay, like they're actually giving us something we can work with. Like we need this, like this is going to be fun. Like we're really going to take this seriously. We're going to try to go through these questions, like, you know, a couple a night, like a normal, sane human being. And then they took it away from us. Like they always would do shit like that. It's like they give you something and it hypes you up and you're like, okay, great. Like I think this is going to be good for my marriage. And in reality, it's because it looks good on TV. In the back end of things, like people aren't seeing how that exercise, like it looks good to everybody, but they're not seeing how it's actually like portrayed and what's truly happening. And they probably are, they're watching us being like, oh God, they don't want to ask each other 2 questions. They must hate each other. And you're like, that's not it.
I also feel like when the show first started, social media was not really a thing. So a lot of what they were filming was truly more documentary style. But now, like any show I watch, not just Married at First Sight, like Love is Blind, whatever, any kind of show that's not even a dating show, like any reality show, if I resonate with the person on the show, I follow them on social media. That's just what we do. And I find that I either really continue to like them, or some of them I'll unfollow after like a week, because you see the authenticity of the person on social media, which I know we've had a million conversations about social media is also not 100% accurate, but you get a better understanding of who the person is. So I feel like now they're still producing the show as if people don't have real life access to us. And I feel like people are led to believe one story, and then they see the authentic version and they're like, oh, I prefer that version. So I just wish there was a better mix of reality and reality, because understanding they have to make a TV show, they have to make it entertaining. That's the only way they're going to get viewers and keep the show going. So I get that. But at the same time, this was sold to us as a documentary style show where they just follow you around, and they didn't really consider what actually works for these couples.
That's what I was just about to say. That's probably why the show is kind of backfiring and they're not having a lot of successful episodes, because people aren't just they're not interested in the nonsense, right? Because like you said, even like the very first episode of the show, it was more documentary, and now they're wanting drama. And this is not something, you don't want drama in a marriage. That's the last thing you want in your marriage is drama, a toxic relationship, negativity. Those are just 3 horrible things you do not want. And if that's what they're giving you, who's going to stick around for something like that?
And don't we all want to see love? Like, I love nothing more than watching shows and seeing real people fall in love. And even if it's not an easy road, even if they struggle like that, I like that even more. Like, you had to fight to get there. I think also because our show is 900 episodes and it comes out a year later, it feels like you're just looking to the past. But I want them to make this show better. Like, we know it works, and I want the show to stop being such a dumpster fire. So I wish they would call us up, listen to this episode.
It is weird because it's also like, I don't know, I feel like it's sometimes like a quantity over quality thing. It's like, if you look at Love is Blind, for instance, like same network, same type of show. I don't know, like same production network, but it's like, in the first couple seasons, like all the couples were staying together and they're like all still very much in love. And then for whatever reason along the way, it's like it's gotten a little more dramatic, a little more dramatic, a little more dramatic. And my opinion is production's getting a little more involved. And it's like slowly the show's almost standing in the way of what could be like really successful marriages. And I kind of looked up spoilers because they just started the UK version of Love is Blind. And from what I read, I don't know if it's true, but like every couple is still together.
Oh.
And it's because it's season 1 there. It's like, oh, okay, like checks out. Like it's almost like if it's season 1 of a show, it does so much better. And the couples like really are like all there for the right reasons too. And then like it actually works out. And you wonder if it's because, I mean, it could even be because this is speculation, but like production doesn't really know what they're doing. So they're probably not involved. They're just like kind of watching, like putting things together, but it's not as formatted because it can't be in the first season of a show. It's probably a shit show on their end. And so the couples actually do get to spend time together and they end up working out. But it's interesting to me to watch those shows in their first season and see them be really successful. And then years down the road, you're like, what happened? Like everyone used to stay together.
Well, that's where I feel like we are now. And truthfully, I feel like on our season, there were some, on paper, I feel like, I mean, really just you guys, the other couples, not as much. But on paper, I feel like you were both very well matched. We know, obviously, it wasn't the same off paper, but I I don't feel like you had egregious matches for husbands. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they would put these two together. It makes absolutely no sense. So there's definitely couples that are in there for production value, but you guys went in there with the right mindset. You had partners who it could have potentially, maybe not worked, forever, but it could have gone a little further with. But I think a lot of the environment that they created made it so you couldn't even get to that stage. Like Gina, I don't think you and Clint would ever have worked as husband and wife, but I can see a world where you would have at least both said yes on decision day and just tried to see what it would have looked like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that a lot of what our problem was things that were forced in production and things that were like exacerbated that didn't even need to be like brought to light. Like our attraction thing was so annoying. We were like, can we please stop talking about this? Like we understand that we both filled out a paper that said we're not attracted to brunettes and red hair. Cool. Like this doesn't have to be like the vein of our existence. And it's like, it was just formatted for us to constantly talk about it. And so when negative is just thrown into your relationship all the time, it kind of like takes away from you actually like allowing positive in until we finally like put our foot down to it.
Right. Like if you had more days like the rodeo, I'm sure you would have at least been like, hey, maybe a friendship is brewing and something can come from that. Who knows?
It is interesting to think about. Like, I mean, I'm in a very happy relationship and I don't think that Clint and I are meant to be together, but it is interesting to think about like the weddings and all of that and like how positive we were going until that was like thrown into our relationship.
I will say, like, that was one of the most challenging parts is like when you're doing your interviews and they're asking you about your spouse and you don't know what they're asking your spouse. So sometimes I would come back and tell Shaquille, like, hey, these are some of the things that we discussed during our interview. So, like, at the very beginning, we would kind of be on the same page. And, like, as we continued to film, I was just like, whatever. And then if we were having a difficult time or difficult topics came up, it was harder to do those interviews because I'm like, I wonder what he's saying about me when they're asking him these questions about me. So it kind of makes you think, like, what does my partner think of me now when I'm not in the room? Like, will he say that to me, while we're sitting here together? And like, even just going back and watching the shows and when we used to come over to your place, Nicole, and watch the shows as a group, I'm like, what in the world? Like, and I stopped watching the show. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this man saying and how is he feeling about me? Like, say it to my face. You're sitting in an interview saying all these things. Come home and, have those conversations with me because we didn't have those conversations all the time after the interview. So that's why it was also so hard for us to be on the same page because it's like sometimes they know exactly what questions to ask you, to get the drama going in your own head. And that's why I feel like that was one of the things that made it difficult for us because we would sit there and film all day and talk about each other outside the house versus like coming back and having those conversations.
Because you hadn't set up those lines of communication yet. I feel like they should have everyone take at least another week off of work, off of life, because I get it. You want to see how everyone functions in the day to day, but you go from getting married to being on this honeymoon to like the day after we came back from the honeymoon, I think we all went back to work and it's so hard. It's like everyone has double ADHD brain because you have to focus on being off of work for 2 weeks, getting back to work, figuring out your marriage, figuring out filming, traveling, going from place to place. So I feel like they should require people to spend a little more time being present, which is why I think those Love is Blind pods really do work because people have nothing else to do but sit and get to know each other. But when you throw real life in, a honeymoon is not enough, especially you're not really spending a lot of alone time together. You're just filming. So I wish they would have given everyone a little more required time. Get it on camera, I don't care, but where your marriage is your only priority and then ease back into real life. Because in real life, you date, you go on 1 date a week, maybe you go on 2 dates a week, you text, you phone call, you ease into it. But because we did the reverse, it feels like we were already set up to not set up those lines of communication because we had so much else going on. And Kirsten, to your point, had you and Shaq had time to just figure out your communication style and get to know each other like fundamentally before he went back to school, went back to work, you went back to work, it might have been easier to have those conversations together versus separately and then seeing them played back later on. Or don't make something harder just because you want the shock value. Like set people up to have a chance and you might have higher ratings.
I definitely agree. If they set people up for success, they would have a higher success rate for sure. It's a shame.
I have more thoughts, but for today, that's all I'll share because now I'm getting a little jittery thinking about it. I'm like, ooh, someone call me up, ask me my thoughts.
I know it does. Like it gets you fired up. Like I'm really proud of all of us for getting through it because to your point, Nicole, like we were definitely, everyone's like, well, you signed up for it. That's like, yeah, one of the most annoying things I read. You signed up to be on TV. I'm like, okay, no, that is not exactly what I signed up for. Like we signed up for a documentary series on successful marriage. Like we didn't sign up for what we actually went through. And maybe we are all a little naive to that, but I think that's why people go on reality TV because everyone's a little naive to that until they've actually lived it. And they're like, oh shit, that's not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Period. Well, I hope whatever's going on with Married at First Sight Australia, they can figure it out. And I hope Pastor Cal's app brings help to people who could use it because I did find him to be the only expert that really made me hear things in the way I needed to hear them. And I feel like he read his producer notes more than anyone else. And that's truly the only reason because he came in and even if he didn't know what was going on, he had an authority about him that made it seem like he knew what was going on. So I was feeling that authenticity. So the name of the game is more authenticity brings a better viewing experience. So I think they need to get back to that docu-series style and follow people around. Like stop telling them what they're doing and just follow them while they're doing what they're doing.
Quit directing their conversations and their actions.
Yeah, or just get to know the people. And like if they need some guidance on whatever they're doing, just guide them.
That is true. Like we didn't have that access to therapy or them. It's like, and that would kind of, I think, for me at least, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I feel like I lost trust in like wanting to be vulnerable with them because I couldn't trust them because they were never around to actually offer sound advice when needed. It was almost like you said, like reading producer notes and coming in and like they're great people and I've loved having the minimal conversations I did. And I feel like deep down, they probably did care about us, but to what extent?
Yeah, I feel like I had FaceTime Pastor Cal one time. I think this is when Shaquille was traveling for work or that time. I think it was the situation when he had made a big deal on him traveling. And I'm like, Shaquille, let's not even like over exaggerate this. Like you didn't even have your travel plans together and you're asking me to come somewhere. I think I had to FaceTime Pastor Cal and talk to him about that entire situation. And then like on decision day, he was so concerned about me. Like he followed me all the way to the room, like after we finished filming. And he was like, are you okay? Like,
that's sweet.
I know this was a lot. Yeah. And so I really, truly, I do appreciate Pastor Cal whenever he was there, and whenever he picked up the phone call, because he did help guide us, through certain conversations and situations. And he put it more in a better perspective for us to kind of understand what we were experiencing in the moment. So he was helpful, while he was there. But it would have been great, like you said, if that was something, we probably should have met with them once a week, honestly. We should have had weekly meetings on how's your marriage going? What do you guys need help with? How can I help? It should have been more hands-on for sure.
Yeah. You said it, sister.
Yeah.
I'm happy we had that conversation because it really grinds my gears sometimes that I feel almost embarrassed when I have to say like how Chris and I met because now people just think of the show as a dumpster fire, but it could be so great. It was so great. It still has a shining light in my eyes, but they need to do better. And I think that starts with calling up the people who have been on the show and ask, like, an exit survey. Hey, you just went through this process. Like, what are your thoughts?
I gave my exit survey. I actually called. I did.
No,
I
you
called.
didn't.
Yes, I did. I called one of the executive producers and I texted him. I was like, hey, can you please give me a call when you have a moment? And he actually called me, and I did. I gave him my full feedback, and he was very receptive of it. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, okay, thanks so much. I think we were probably like on a 30-minute call.
Wow.
Yeah, I called him. Like
Meanwhile,
after
he like muted. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to work. And
yeah,
then
I called him after we finished the Where Are They Now? I was like, hey, can you call me when you have a moment? Because I feel like that was great filming up until the point where they made us upset. Because we had such a great time up until the part where we were going to play the game for you and Chris and celebrate y'all.
That's a story we'll share on our episode next week.
Yeah, when it went down.
Little tea for next week.
When we had a riot outside.
for revolution.
A revolution moment.
No, that was we knew we were done and we were ready to let it all out.
Yeah, we had to put our foot down.
So tune in next week if you want to hear some juicy tea on what happened when we were filming the Where Are They Now special. This is probably our most interesting story of all of filming, and we want to share it with you. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Let us know on Instagram at D-List Diaries what you think the show should do differently, what it should keep, what it should change. What are your thoughts? Share them with us. We'd love to hear it.
I see what you did there. We're letting Married at First Sight know what they can do differently, and you guys can let us know what we can do differently. I'm scared.
No, I'm talking about the show.
Oh, I thought you meant our show.
No, I don't want to know what we can do differently. I mean,
I do. If you want,
I thought you meant our
if
show
you guys
too.
want us to do something differently, Gina does my hair. Let me know, and I'll translate it to the group.
okay, fine. Give us feedback on Married at First Sight and our podcast. If you don't like it, we can take it, but we want to make this enjoyable for everyone. So let us know what you want to hear more of, less of.
We can't wait to hear from you guys.
All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.